Hi, welcome to the Dire-Rie of a Sane Black Woman. I'm Marie, your host, and this is Brief Moments with Marie. These are segments that I record in between my regular podcasts, which can be found on all platforms, including YouTube. Now, today on Brief Moments with Marie, I wanted to discuss silence and is speaking up a lack of emotional intelligence. The reason why I actually want to talk about this today, I think it's a very important topic, is because one, I think it's a way to encourage others to speak up, those who are probably experiencing a similar situation, or even if it's not a similar situation, but they're in a situation where they want to speak up, but maybe they're afraid of speaking up. This is to encourage them to do so, but also because not because I went looking for it, but because I have been seeing a lot of things just popping up on my feed about how, silence is a virtue and how speaking up sometimes or sharing how you're feeling and your emotions is basically can hint that maybe you're emotionally unstable. And I would like to say that I completely disagree with that. And I think that that is not that is very incorrect assessment. And I'll tell you why in a bit. But I would like first to say that, I am a very private person. Those who know me, whether it's, from when I was a very young child or that has known me in different settings, whether it be work, school, what have you, they know that I'm very private. Everyone that knows me knows that I'm a very private person. Even my family will tell you that I'm a very private person. Now, that being said, I like to consider myself as an ambivert, not necessarily an introvert, right? Because there are instances where I actually am outgoing and, I I speak out or I speak up. I'm very outspoken, right? Just because I'm private doesn't mean that I'm not outspoken. I've been outspoken since I was a kid, actually. Now, that being said, as a private person, I have been put in a very strange predicament, right? Where I'm a private person, but basically I've been forced into visibility, right? Everyone knows me. Everyone knows me or knows of me, right? Those that don't know me, they know of me. And I say that, jokingly. Obviously not everyone knows me, but this situation, as especially the ones that are participating or that has received messages and things like that, they know that this is a very viral situation, right? This is not something that is private at all. And so I find myself in a position where I'm carrying the tension between being a private person and having forced visibility. And so this video is meant to honor my quiet nature while giving voice to the boundary that I will no longer allow others to steal. And people will often tell you that, silence is strength, that speaking up is a sign of weakness or poor emotional intelligence. Silence actually can be the tool of the oppressor, right? So that's why I disagree with that. So the oppressor would always want you to be quiet. And so today I choose my voice over enforced quiet. And so, we've all heard that keep your feelings inside, don't make a scene, be emotionally mature, that phrase has been handed down like a virtue, right? We've been taught a lot of things. We've been conditioned, especially as women. I have this book on my shelf. It's called Nice Girls Don't Get Corner Offices. And not to go too much into the book, but just to kind of show you how we're conditioned as women, how we should speak or how we should behave at work, things like that. And then when it comes to maybe the opposite sex, those things are not expected from them, and how if we're outspoken, we're labeled as one thing, versus if a man does it, then, they're labeled as something else. And so I'm just here to say that, speaking up is not a weakness. It's actually a virtue. And so while if silence sometimes serves those that actually harm us. And so that's why they want us to be quiet. And staying quiet hides the abuse, it hides the oppression, it hides the persecution, it hides the human rights violations, and it hides the betrayal, right? And so there's a difference between choosing privacy and being forced into silence by fear, shame, or surveillance. And that's the situation that I find myself in, right? Because of everything that's been happening, especially now. I mean, I was already facing it, as I was reporting things to the police and things of that nature. But now, because I'm choosing to come and post this publicly, there's been other tactics that are being used, whether it be intrusive ads that are, sexually explicit in nature, offensive in nature, and those that are strategically positioned to basically try to program me into silence. I've seen different things about how, again, silence is a virtue, and that, how to deal with a narcissist is to be silent, just different things, right? And who knows? I know that a lot of people are labeling me as a narcissist. You can continue to label me as a narcissist. It doesn't matter. I've been labeled so many different things, right? I can't keep up with the labels that I've been given, but I know what God has labeled me as. So it doesn't matter what you try to label me. It just falls off. It's falling off. It's not sticking. Yes. The oil of gladness for the spirit of heaviness. Yes. Beauty for ashes. So there's also been the algorithmic manipulation, the poisoning of the algorithm, the hacking, the network infiltration, retaliation, right? All of these are retaliation, but also in-person retaliation for people that I may have called out, or institutions that I may have called out, even though I haven't called out specific names. But, some people, they feel, oh man, she went too far now, when they were part of the abuse all along. They knew it was happening. I was reporting it and they weren't doing anything to it. They weren't doing anything about it. But when I spoke up, now all of a sudden they have a set of rules that, oh, Marie, these rules, you need to follow these set of rules that, I didn't know I was breaking any rules. All of a sudden, right? Just different forms of retaliation. And I won't go into the specifics of that. I don't think it's worth it, at least not at this juncture. But I'm just basically sharing. These are all tactics to try to silence you. And I just want to say, I won't be silent. I won't be silent, and I won't be silenced. And I have broken my silence, and I will continue to speak up, because you can't expect me to be quiet, because it's not like you all stopped, right? You continue to harass me. You continue to surveil me. You continue to try to infiltrate my network. You continue to try to hack me. You invade my privacy day in and day out. You're disseminating information about me day in and day out. You're on the group chats. You're doing all sorts of things to me, day in and day out. It's not like it's in the past and you did it and now, Marie, move on. Right? You're still doing it. You're still doing it. And you expect me to be quiet. I won't. I won't be quiet. And so I just want to say that speaking up is not emotional immaturity. It's actually advanced emotional work. And to speak when it hurts you, you must first recognize the hurt, right? And so you must name it, you must own it, and decide what you will do next. And so emotional intelligence is not about suppressing every unpleasant feeling so others can stay comfortable. Emotional intelligence is about awareness. It's about regulation, and it's about honest communication. And I don't believe that emotional intelligence means that someone should just flatline and just be the same all the time, regardless of what is going on. We are humans. We feel. We have blood in our veins. We have emotions. We have a heart. We have a soul. And so we shouldn't be the same all the time. There are going to be moments where we're happy, we're sad, and while temperance is a clear fruit of the Holy Spirit, right? That is a fruit of the Spirit. And, we should use our temperance. And if we don't have it, we should ask God to stir up that fruit. However, it also says in the Bible that there is a time for everything in Ecclesiastes, a time to be happy, a time to be sad, a time to be angry, a time for peace, a time for war. There is a time, there is a season for everything. And so in this season, in this time, I'm choosing to speak out. I'm choosing to speak out. I won't be silent, and I won't be silenced. And so when you name harm, you create accountability. And when you share testimony, you break isolation. Now, again, I just want to reiterate, this is not my full testimony. This page was not created for that. This is to document my experience as a targeted individual and the things that I've been facing as a targeted individual. When the time comes for my full testimony, whenever that time comes, that will happen. But this is not the purpose of this. And so in any event, breaking the silence is a way to basically interrupt patterns that rely on secrecy, patterns that rely on the victim being silenced because they're probably ashamed or afraid, just different tactics that, the abuser or abusers try to use, when they're dealing with a target or a victim. And I don't have any of that right now, because God has freed me. He's delivered me from that. So you can't shame me. There's no amount of harassment. There's no amount of whatever it is that you're doing that can basically shame me. God has removed my sins from me as far as the east is from the west. And the east and west never converge. Do you see how powerful that is? Where the north and south meets eventually at some point, the east and west never converge. That is powerful. That's what God has told me in his Bible. And so no one can say whether you're a Christian, you're holier than thou, or whatever you think you are, or you're someone else that can try to anchor me back to my past mistakes, or even things that I'm doing, mistakes that I'm still making, or things that I may do that the Holy Spirit has not convicted me about, that you think is wrong. in any event, that's neither here nor there. That's like a completely different topic, but I felt like I needed to share that. So there's nothing that you can do to shame me into silence, into being quiet. You've already basically invaded my privacy. So you can't expect me to be quiet now on your terms, right? You want to hear my voice. You want to know what's going on with me. You want to invade my privacy. You want to share private conversations, private moments, but then you want me to be quiet. You want me to be quiet when you want me to be quiet. But you want to invade my privacy when you want to invade my privacy. No, it doesn't work that way. It does not. It does not work that way. Try again. And so, as I said, I'm naturally a private person, and I prefer to be quiet. And while I value solitude, and the protection of my life, of my inner life, I have kept my life small. I have. I would very much like to go back to the way that things were, but that is not going to happen. And so I know that God is going to take this situation and turn it into good. And so I have to deal with what I have in front of me now. And so now I am choosing to speak out, and I'm choosing not to be silent. I'm speaking out on my terms, not when someone tells me to speak out, not when they tell me, okay, how high I should jump or when to speak. You're not the author of my life. God is. And so, after what has happened to me, what has been done, and a lot of you know, maybe some of you don't know. Obviously, it's not everyone that knows, but this is a very viral situation. It's a global situation. People are participating across the globe, different continents. It's across different continents, ladies and gentlemen, and basically doing this to me. And a lot of you know that this is happening. And so, because of the magnitude of the situation, this is not something that I can no longer be quiet, because it's not something that happened, right? It continues to happen. It hasn't stopped. So how do you expect me to be quiet, be silent, and you're still doing it to me? You're still attacking me. It doesn't work that way. There's been a lot of privacy violations, human rights violations. I've mentioned this before. And I haven't gone into very detailed or explicit details about this, but many of you who have been in the group chats, who have received messages, you know what is happening is a human rights violation. You know that. You know it's wrong. And even if you're not the person that actually launched the attack, but you're willfully participating in it, you're willfully mocking me, you're willfully participating in the challenges, you're just as wrong. So asking me in this situation to be silent so that I can fit your narrative, the narrative that you want to continue to paint me as, or the picture that you're trying to paint me as, to fit the narrative, that the box that you want me to fit in, it's not going to happen. So asking me to be quiet would be asking me to consent to continue to be harmed. And so I refuse that. Silence in this situation is not virtue, it's complicity. And so if any one of you out there, if anyone has labeled you as a complainer for speaking out, or a negative Nancy, I think that's a term. I've heard that term before. And if your name is Nancy, I'm sorry. Nothing against Nancy's. But remember this, that calling out harm is accountability, not negativity. And the negative person is often the one trying to silence you. And so my decree for this episode is this: I reclaim my voice. I refuse enforced silence. Truth will name what has been hidden, and freedom will follow. So if someone tells you to be quiet after they've harmed you, know this: your voice is not weakness. Your voice is the remedy. If this resonates with you, share your truth in the comments, and like, share, save this video, and with someone who might need to hear this, or someone, who might need that encouragement to speak up. And this is called Brief Moments with Marie. And these are basically recordings that I record in between the podcast. And my podcast, The Diary of a Sane Black Woman, can be found on all platforms, at least all the main platforms, including YouTube. I'll see you soon. Thank you for checking in, and see you in the next episode.